Decluttering is work, there's no question about it. And sometimes when you're already feeling exhausted or overwhelmed, or like you just don't have enough time in your day, it can feel like a real struggle to add one more thing to your plate. But the truth is, decluttering can change your life in such profound ways. And in today's video, I'm going to be sharing exactly what you can expect to see on your declutter journey. The reality is, with clutter, there is a much larger issue at stake. And if you're anything like me, I had no clue in all the ways that clutter was impacting my life. Stuff is not passive. And here's what I mean by that. We continue to pay for things long after we swipe our credit card or add to cart online. So let's talk about money for a second. It's obvious that a lot of the things that come into our house and become clutter, we at one point spent money on. So there's the monetary cost of clutter and stuff, but there's also the monetary cost of keeping it. Did you know that it costs about $10 a square foot on average to store things in your home? So don't underestimate the amount of space that all these things that you've been procrastinating about getting rid of are really taking up. It's not just taking up physical space in your home. That is literally money sitting there in boxes. So let it go. Plus, there's the money we spend to replace items we can't find. Have you ever done this? Put a yes in the comments. I did this actually more frequently than I care to admit. I would lose something and I would hop on Amazon to replace it, only to get it in the mail and find the original one that I needed after I got the second one. Americans collectively spend $2.7 billion every year replacing the items we can't find. For a lot of us, that's about $50, right? That adds up year after year. And while a lot of people declutter and don't really make any changes to their shopping habits, if you're anything like me, I had a big shopping problem. I am a recovering shopaholic, and I used to spend so much money, and I should say waste thousands of dollars, and it still pains me to say this. However, I think there's so many opportunities on our declutter journey to bring awareness to the roots of our clutter. So if you're a shopping girly like I used to be, do you know how much it takes to waste $10,000 a year? Just $27.40 a day in miscellaneous spending. So as you can see, there are numerous ways our bank accounts and our finances will vastly improve from decluttering and working on those shopping habits. And let's talk about time for a second, because studies show that simply by decluttering the clutter in our home, we can regain up to 40% of our time each week in doing household chores. So that equates to just over an hour a day on average. It could be a little bit less for you. It could actually be more for you. But think about that. Cumulatively, that's 365 hours plus a year you can save. And think about how that in turn impacts your ability to show up every day as a parent, as a sister, as an employee, as a boss. All the different identities we have and responsibilities we have are impacted by our time and energy. And if you're watching this today and you're like, oh, Katie, I don't have the time to declutter. I wish I did, but I don't. I would love to offer you this. There is a huge difference in spending your time versus investing your time. When we spend our time doing things like watching TV or scrolling Instagram, we're not really looking to gain anything out of it. Investing your time, on the other hand, means you are intentionally engaging in activities which are calculated to bring you meaningful rewards, and the actions compound, and we get a return on our investment. We get more time and energy back than we actually put in. This is decluttering in a nutshell. So I implore you to just spend the time doing it. Time spent decluttering is never wasted. If you are actively getting things out of your home, it's not wasted. Even if you have a shopping problem and continue shopping and bringing stuff into your home at a rapid pace, you're still going to have less to battle on the back end. Now, ultimately, we want to get to the roots. I agree, but it's never time wasted. I cannot stress that enough. And I can say, after being on the other side of decluttering, absolutely, I save at least an hour a day in housework, at least. So my question for you is, and put in the comments, because I would love to hear, what would you do with an extra 1 hour a day? Read a book, exercise, get outside and take a hike, pick up a hobby, spend time with your kids. What would you do with an extra hour a day? It's possible. With clutter, there is also a mental price. Clutter takes up headspace, and there are studies showing that clutter increases our stress levels, and that the more items we have in our home, the higher our stress levels are. And instead of going down throughout the day, they stay elevated, which is not what we want. So taxing this system, our stress system, eventually results in higher levels of depression, anxiety, and lower capacity to think clearly, make decisions, and even stay focused. Every time you bring something into your home, it's one more thing struggling to find a home for, have to put back, have to move around, have to shuffle, have to clean around, dust, all the things. And honestly, if you're the stuff manager in your house, it is exhausting. If you are the one who knows where everything is at all times, again, mental price. And that mental price ties into the emotional price. Ooh, it's a doozy. I feel like if this were Mortal Kombat, it's like the 1-2 punch that just takes so many people out. Resentment, frustration, anxiety, again, depression, guilt of the money spent, and shame of not being able to keep a tidy home. And clutter and shame are kind of like best friends for a lot of us, and they keep us stuck. And let's talk about relationships for a minute. Has anyone here put in the comments, this is me too, argued with your partner or maybe even some kids in your home about whose turn it is to do the dishes or the laundry or to pick up the toys? Yeah, me too. I used to regularly argue with my husband over these things. And when I decluttered and when everything became simpler to do and these chores were literally cut in half time-wise, guess what? There was less arguing. In a survey of over 4,000 Brits in 2017, 61% of households in the UK say they argue about clutter at least once a month, with a third arguing every single week. Clutter impacts our relationships too. I mean, it makes sense if you think about it. If you don't feel good coming into your home at the end of a busy day, we tend to not be able to relax, to take a load off. Our stress sometimes even goes up. We're on edge. We have less patience for one another. We just get annoyed and triggered. This is why it's not uncommon for me to see this type of comment in my programs. This is from my follower who shared that since she began decluttering, her relationship has transformed in such beautiful ways. This is incredible. And another student recently shared how she feels like she's finally out of this rat race on the weekends to get all the chores done and to get the house back to square one. Instead, she spent her Sunday last weekend relaxing, hanging out with the kids, doing what she wanted to do instead of managing all the stuff. This is beautiful. I love it. So take this as your reminder. When you change your environment, your thoughts and emotions change. And when your thoughts and emotions change, often our behaviors, our action, again, the way we show up each and every day, minute by minute, hour by hour, it's all impacted. So earlier I mentioned a study that shows that clutter impacts our stress levels. And when we're surrounded by clutter, our brains sometimes get stuck in this perpetual low-grade fight or flight response, that stress response. And this is the system designed to keep us alive. It's not meant to be on 24/7. And this is exactly how that elevated stress level over time can actually impact our physical health as well. So yes, even physical clutter can impact our physical health. For example, those elevated stress levels can cause fatigue, weight gain, increased blood pressure, increased heart rate, increased blood sugars. The list goes on. This actually reminds me about this really inspiring story from my student Kristen, who after decluttering her home lost 20 pounds. She had no intention of losing the weight, but there is a tie between clutter, especially clutter in our kitchens, and how that impacts our eating habits. In fact, there is a study out there that shows when we spend time in a cluttered kitchen, we are more likely to binge eat junk food. So again, our environments influence our actions. By simplifying her kitchen and probably getting rid of some of that expired junk food and clutter, she now began to make healthier eating habits. So Kristen, a single mom of 3 young kids, loses 20 pounds plus, gets healthier, gets time and energy back, has less overwhelm, fatigue, less stress, shows up happier. Even her bubbly personality came back through all of this. Think about how much differently she shows up and goes through her days now than she did pre-decluttering. This can happen to anyone. I see these stories time and time again. And what's even cooler is you don't need to get to the finish line in order to see these results. Decluttering 5 minutes here, 20 minutes there, and decluttering as consistently as possible over time, a lot of people start reaping these benefits actually pretty quickly. Even when life throws a curveball, there's illness, you get sick, you move across the country, all of the things that use up our time, energy, and resources. Everything in life is exponentially easier when you have less clutter in your house. So whether you're sold on decluttering or just warming up to the idea, the reality is it can bring so many positive benefits to your life. And those impacts are amazing, but maybe you're not sure where to start. So click the video on your screen now to learn exactly how to create a declutter plan that you won't burn out on.